Virgin girl was hired by a dying millionaire to carry his baby, but she never expected to inherit his entire world. Serena Caldwell tightened her grip on the tray of coffee cups as she weaved through the noisy downtown cafe. Her apron was stained, her sneakers worn thin, and her smile, though polite, was forced. Life had not been gentle with her, but she endured it with quiet grace. She had just dropped off an order when she glanced toward the far corner of the cafe. A man sat alone by the window, staring into his untouched espresso. He wore a tailored suit, but his posture was slumped, as if weighed down by something heavier than the world. There was something unusual about him, not just his intense, almost haunted eyes, but the quiet way he seemed to carry himself, like he was waiting for something that would never arrive. That man was Ethan Montgomery. And the moment his gaze met Serena's, something shifted. Later that day, as Serena took her break in the alley behind the cafe, she noticed the same man standing there, away from the crowd, breathing deeply like someone desperate for air. "Rough day?" she asked gently, handing him a bottle of water without thinking. Ethan looked at her, startled. "You didn't even ask who I am." She shrugged. "You look like someone who needed a drink of water. I didn't know I needed to check your resume first." That made him smile for the first time that day. A week later, Serena was shocked when she received a formal letter summoning her to a private meeting in a luxury law firm downtown. She thought it was a mistake. But when she arrived, the same man from the cafe, Ethan Montgomery, was waiting for her in a glass-walled office, flanked by a serious-looking man in a charcoal suit. "I'm sorry if this is forward," Ethan began, "but I don't have time for small talk. I need your help." Serena blinked, heart pounding. "Help? With what?" "I'm dying," he said flatly, her breath caught. "I have a rare genetic condition. Doctors have given me less than a year, but I can still leave behind something that matters, a child, an heir. I want you to carry my baby." Serena's knees almost gave out. "I'd pay for everything. You'd never have to worry about money again, but I want someone pure, kind, not someone who sees this as a transaction. I saw how you treated me when you thought I was just some random man. That's why I chose you." Serena fled the office that day in disbelief, but back at home, she found her little sister, Sophia, coughing on the couch, surrounded by unpaid bills and half-eaten noodles. Their parents had died in a fire 3 years ago, and Serena had been doing everything to keep Sophia in school. She worked 2 jobs, barely slept, and still couldn't keep up. She sat up all night thinking, was it wrong? Was it selfish? Could she really give her body and a piece of her soul for money? The next morning she returned to Ethan's office. "I'll do it," she said, her voice shaking, "but only if I can stay in the baby's life, even just a little." Ethan nodded solemnly. "More than a little. I want you to raise him or her if anything happens to me." Later that week, Serena arrived at the Montgomery estate, a sprawling modern glass mansion nestled in the hills like a palace among clouds. She had never seen such wealth. Everything glittered, from the marble floors to the chandeliers, but the beauty was cold, sterile, and quiet, almost too quiet. A sharp-heeled woman stepped out from the shadows, arms folded. "I don't know who you are," the woman said icily, "but this isn't a hotel." Serena hesitated. "I'm Serena. Mr. Montgomery asked me to stay here as part of—" "I know exactly who you are," the woman snapped, "and I know why you're here." She turned on her heel and disappeared, leaving a trail of expensive perfume in her wake. That was Olivia Montgomery, Ethan's only sister, and from that moment on, Serena understood. Her presence in this house was not welcome. That night, Serena lay awake in her unfamiliar, luxurious bed. Her thoughts swirled with confusion, guilt, fear, and something else she didn't dare name. She was no longer just a girl from nowhere. She was now entangled in a dying billionaire's legacy, and her world would never be the same again. Serena stood at the threshold of her new reality, the Montgomery estate. With its grand archways, velvet drapes, and silent corridors, it felt more like a private museum than a home. A quiet tension hummed in the air, like the house itself was holding its breath. A uniformed butler guided her through the vast halls until she arrived at the master lounge, where Ethan Montgomery sat by the fireplace, staring into the flames. "You came," he said softly, not looking at her. "I did," she replied, "even though everything about this feels unreal." He turned to her and smiled faintly. "Welcome to my world, Serena. It's yours now too, at least for a little while." That evening, Ethan's trusted attorney, Liam Knight, arrived with a thick folder. "The contract," he said briskly, handing Serena the document. "You'll want to read every clause, especially the confidentiality section." Serena sat down and scanned the pages. Her eyes widened at the list of conditions. She would live full-time in the estate. She would receive medical care from Ethan's private physician. She would receive a monthly allowance, but could not leave without notice, and under no circumstance could she terminate the pregnancy once confirmed. "This is strict," she whispered. "It's a legal fortress," Liam replied, "to protect you, but also to protect Ethan's legacy." Ethan remained quiet but watched her closely. "If anything makes you uncomfortable, speak now." Serena hesitated, and then signed. Later that night, Serena wandered into the garden for air, only to find Olivia Montgomery standing under the moonlight with a glass of wine. "Oh, look!" Olivia sneered. "The hired womb!" Serena froze. "I'm not here to take anything from you." Olivia walked up, inches from her face. "You already have my brother's attention, his wealth, and soon, his child." "I didn't ask for any of this," Serena replied, trying to keep her voice calm. "Number. But you're taking it anyway. Enjoy the castle, Cinderella. Just remember, midnight always comes." The next morning, Serena sat nervously in the private medical wing as Dr. Jason Reed performed the procedure. The room was pristine and cold, the hum of machines the only sound. Ethan wasn't present. He had insisted it would be easier for both of them if he stayed away. "Don't worry, Doctor," Reed said. "You'll be pregnant before the week is over." Serena flinched slightly at his clinical tone. Something about his smile didn't feel right, but she kept still and said nothing. Later that day, Serena returned to her suite to find an unexpected visitor, Vivian Hartley. Tall, elegant, and wearing a diamond necklace that screamed old money, Vivian stepped inside without invitation. "I see Ethan's taste hasn't improved," she said, scanning Serena from head to toe. "Who are you?" Serena asked. "I used to be the one in your shoes, except I didn't need a contract to be loved." Vivian sat on the edge of Serena's bed, crossing her legs dramatically. "You're not carrying a baby. You're carrying a throne, and trust me, sweetheart, people kill for that." With a smirk, she stood and walked out, leaving a lingering chill behind her. That evening, Serena joined Ethan for dinner in the solarium. Despite everything, he looked peaceful, even happy. "Did the doctor say it went well?" he asked gently. "He did," she answered. "He said we'll know soon." Ethan reached across the table, not to touch her, but to offer a folded paper. "This is something I haven't shared with anyone else." It was a drawing of a tiny nursery, hand-sketched in pencil. On the side, Ethan had written, "For the child I may never meet, but who will carry my name." Serena felt her throat tighten. She looked at him, not as a billionaire or a stranger or a dying man, but as a future father. "I hope they get your eyes," she whispered. Ethan smiled sadly. "I hope they get your heart." That night, Serena lay awake beneath silk sheets, the stars above twinkling through the skylight. She had entered his world, and already it was starting to change hers. But what she didn't know was that secrets were being whispered behind closed doors. Secrets that could end her place in that world before it had even truly begun. Serena pressed a hand to her stomach as she gazed at her reflection in the gilded mirror. The doctor had called that morning. It had worked. She was officially pregnant. She whispered softly, "I'm carrying his child." Her emotions swirled, fear, awe, confusion, but above all, an ache she couldn't name. Later that afternoon, Ethan invited her to the estate's rooftop garden, a lush private sanctuary overlooking the rolling hills of Willow Creek. "Do you like it up here?" he asked as she joined him on the stone bench. Serena smiled. "It doesn't feel real." "Neither does you being here," he replied, "but I'm grateful." There was a silence between them, peaceful but heavy. "I know this started as a contract," Ethan said softly. "But if I'm honest, Serena, the way you speak to me, the way you care without pretending, it's the first time in years I've felt seen." Serena felt her cheeks warm. She didn't know what to say, so he reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny silver rattle. "It was mine when I was born. I want you to have it." Back in her room, Ava, Serena's best friend, FaceTimed her from their old apartment. Ava's expression was a mix of suspicion and concern. "So, what? You live in a mansion now, and you're pregnant with a billionaire's baby?" Serena nodded nervously. Ava narrowed her eyes. "Girl, don't fall for this man. Contracts don't come with love. You give birth, he walks away. That's how these stories go." "It's not like that," Serena whispered. "He's kind." "He's dying, Serena, and lonely. Don't confuse loneliness with love." Serena ended the call feeling both protective and conflicted. That evening, Liam arrived to deliver financial paperwork for Serena's account, but he lingered longer than usual. He watched her as she laughed at something Ethan said. Later, while Serena walked him to the gate, Liam hesitated. "You know, you're not like the others," he said. "What others?" "The women who orbit Ethan for attention. You're different. That scares me." Serena tilted her head. "Why would that scare you?" "Because," Liam murmured, "he might start believing in something that he'll never live long enough to keep." Serena said nothing, but her heart fluttered in a way she didn't expect. Meanwhile, Vivian was seething in her private suite. "She's pregnant," she hissed into the phone. "That peasant girl is carrying Ethan's heir." On the other end, her father, Benjamin Hartley, powerful and calculated, said coldly, "Then make her leave." Vivian's lips curved. "I'll do more than that." That night she, accidentally, spilled red wine on Serena's white nightgown during dinner. "Oh, how clumsy of me," Vivian said sweetly. But Serena saw through it and didn't flinch. "If you're trying to humiliate me, Vivian, you'll have to try harder." Vivian's smile vanished. As Serena walked back to her room, she heard murmuring down the hall. She tiptoed closer. Dr. Jason Reed stood in a dim corridor, whispering furiously with someone hidden by shadows. He's growing weaker. We need to accelerate the plan. That girl could ruin everything." The hidden figure hissed. "Then make sure she doesn't." Serena gasped, stepping back, and bumped into a statue. It clattered loudly. Dr. Reed turned, eyes sharp. "Who's there?" Serena ran. That night, she curled up in her bed, heart racing. Something dark was brewing in this house, but even in fear, One truth pulsed within her. She was falling for Ethan, and if she wasn't careful, she wouldn't just lose her heart. She could lose everything. The test results were clear. Serena stood in the private clinic with trembling hands as Dr. Jason Reed confirmed the news with cold efficiency. "You are officially pregnant with Mr. Montgomery's child. Congratulations," he said, handing her the printed sonogram. Serena stared at the tiny, grainy image. That little speck was life, her life, Ethan's legacy. "Thank you," she whispered, though Jason's tone had sent a chill down her spine. That evening, Serena stepped onto the back veranda to clear her head, only to be cornered by Vivian. "You must be so thrilled," Vivian purred, "from waitress to queen of the estate." "I'm not here for the money," Serena replied calmly. "Oh, spare me." Vivian's eyes sparkled with malice. "You think carrying his child makes you special? Ethan's affection doesn't last." Vivian leaned in closer. "He loved me once, deeply. You're just a temporary vessel." Serena clenched her fists. "Then why are you still here, Vivian?" Vivian's smirk faltered, but only briefly. "You'll see," she said, walking away, heels echoing like warning bells. That night, Serena caught Lucas Bennett, Ethan's loyal assistant, acting oddly near the study. He seemed tense, peering over his shoulder as he quietly closed the door. "What are you doing?" Serena asked. Lucas jumped. "Nothing, just securing some of Ethan's documents." His jaw tightened. "You can't trust everyone in this house, Serena, especially not those closest to the will." Before she could ask what he meant, he was gone. Meanwhile, in the wine cellar, Olivia stood beneath a flickering chandelier, flipping through a thick red file with trembling hands. "Unbelievable," she muttered, eyes scanning the legal clauses. She had uncovered the revised draft of Ethan's will. Serena was listed, not as a surrogate, but as a guardian, executor, and if Ethan passed before the child was born, the primary heir. "Over my dead body," Olivia hissed. She dialed her phone. "Dr. Reed, we need to move faster." Unaware of the growing storm, Serena passed the library and overheard voices through the slightly cracked door. She recognized Ethan's and Liam's. "She doesn't know yet," Ethan said. "You're keeping her in the dark," Liam replied sternly. "You amended your entire estate. She's in danger now, Ethan." "I did it to protect her," Ethan snapped. "I don't trust anyone else, not even you." Serena stepped back, breath caught. He didn't trust Liam? And what else was he hiding from her? The next morning, Serena entered Ethan's room to find him collapsed on the floor, pale and gasping. "Ethan!" she screamed. Lucas and Liam rushed in as Serena cradled him. "Get the doctor, now!" she cried. As the staff scrambled, Serena looked down at Ethan, his eyes fluttering open just enough to see her. "I didn't want you to see me like this," he whispered. Serena gripped his hand. "Then don't leave me." The entire Montgomery estate was cast in eerie silence. Ethan had been rushed to the emergency wing of the mansion's private medical floor, and though the staff moved with cold precision, their hurried whispers and urgent pacing gave the truth away. His condition had worsened, fast. Serena sat on a velvet settee outside his room, her hands tightly clasped over her growing stomach. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. The tears had stopped the moment fear turned into numbness. She was too afraid to cry, because crying would make it real. She glanced at the closed double doors. Beyond them, the man whose life had intertwined with hers in the strangest of ways lay fighting for breath. He had given her a contract, a future, and something even more dangerous, his heart. "Serena?" She turned and saw Liam approaching, his face unusually soft. He sat beside her and exhaled. His lungs are deteriorating. Dr. Reed says it's accelerated scarring. The treatments aren't holding anymore. Serena looked down. They said he had months, not weeks. Liam nodded, lips pursed. I think he knew. He just didn't want to scare you. Silence stretched between them. Do you love him? Liam asked suddenly. Serena's head shot up. Why would you ask me that? He looked away, jaw clenched. Because if you do, you need to prepare yourself. The man in that room, he doesn't believe he deserves to be loved back. Serena stood, her voice trembling. Then I'll just have to show him he's wrong. That night, the estate hosted a formal dinner to honor an annual family foundation Ethan had funded. It was a tradition, even if Ethan couldn't attend. But his absence loomed large. Serena, dressed in a soft blue gown Ethan had once told her brought out the light in her eyes. As she entered the grand dining hall, whispers trailed behind her like shadows. Guests from Ethan's extended family eyed her with suspicion and thinly veiled judgment. She had only just begun to settle into her seat when Olivia stood at the center of the room, tapping her glass. Before we begin, she said with a sharp smile, I'd like to address something that has weighed heavily on our family's reputation. All eyes turned. Olivia gestured dramatically to Serena. It's no secret my brother has made questionable decisions in the last year, most notably allowing this young woman to enter his life, and his will. Gasps echoed. And now, Olivia continued, a certain heir-to-be has mysteriously been given access to his accounts, his estate, and... She pulled something from her pocket. His mother's jewelry, which has vanished from the vault. There it was, the trap. Serena stood, eyes wide. What are you talking about? I never... She stole it, Olivia announced with a finality that turned the room into a sea of murmurs. The emerald pendant worth over $2 million, gone, and she's the only new presence in this house. All heads turned to Serena. That's a lie, she whispered. I never even knew about the pendant. But the damage had been done. Vivian, seated nearby, smirked. Perhaps you should go check your room. Who knows what else you've forgotten to declare? Serena ran up the staircase, followed by Lucas, who had seen the panic in her eyes. She burst into her suite and flung open drawers, cabinets, nothing. But when she opened her wardrobe, her breath caught. There, tucked behind one of her maternity dresses, was a velvet pouch. Inside it glittered the missing pendant. No, she whispered, stepping back. Lucas picked it up carefully. You didn't put this here. No, of course not. He stared at her. Then we need to prove it. Olivia planted it, she said through gritted teeth. Or Vivian, or both. Lucas nodded. Then let's play their game. Downstairs, Serena reappeared in the hall with the pendant in hand. You were right, she said, voice clear. It was in my room. Olivia gasped in mock triumph. So you admit? I admit that I've been too trusting. Serena cut in. Too quiet. But from now on, I'll be watching every corner of this house, every camera, every locked drawer. She stepped forward. And if anyone thinks they can discredit me, threaten me, or steal this child's future, you'll wish you had left me alone. The room fell silent. Even Olivia blinked in surprise. Later that night, Serena visited Ethan's bedside. He looked even thinner now, the shadows beneath his eyes deeper. But when he saw her, a smile touched his lips. I heard what happened, he murmured. Of course you did, she replied gently, sitting beside him. You always hear everything. You held your ground. Serena looked down at their joined hands. Because I'm not just doing this for me anymore. I'm doing it for our child, and for you. A tear slipped down Ethan's cheek. I wanted to give you something, he said weakly. But I waited too long. Serena shook her head. You gave me everything the day you chose me. He closed his eyes. Promise me, if I don't make it, protect the baby, protect what we built, the house, the people who were loyal, everything. I promise, she whispered. Elsewhere, Ava was busy hacking into the estate's surveillance footage, using a tablet Liam had given her. She had stayed behind after the dinner, suspicious of the entire theft debacle. Got you, she muttered, pausing on grainy footage of Vivian slipping into Serena's suite during the dinner and tucking something behind the wardrobe. She texted the clip to Lucas and added, Hope you like fireworks. Send this to Olivia anonymously. The next morning, Ethan, though still weak, summoned Serena privately. I changed my will, he told her. You and the baby are now my legal successors. If anything happens to me, you are the guardian of my estate. Serena's eyes filled with tears. You didn't have to. I did, he said firmly, because now I know you were never just a surrogate. Serena leaned in, resting her forehead against his. Your family now. The rain poured down in sheets over Willow Creek, turning the Montgomery estate into a glass prison surrounded by storm clouds. Inside the grand house, however, another kind of storm was brewing, one made of whispers, greed, and growing fear. Serena stood at the bay window of her suite, watching the grey sky as she cradled her growing belly. She was 5 weeks pregnant now. Small flutters reminded her that life was forming inside her, even as death loomed outside her door. She had no illusions anymore. This wasn't just a contract, it was a war, and her child was the battleground. That morning, Olivia stormed into Ethan's private study, face pinched and sharp. You've lost your mind, she hissed. She's a stranger, a waitress, and you've handed her our legacy. Ethan, pale and seated in his leather chair, didn't look up from the letter he was signing. She's the mother of my child, he said flatly, and the only person in this house who hasn't tried to poison me with ambition. Olivia's voice dropped. She's not one of us, Ethan. She will destroy this family's name. Ethan finally looked up, and his eyes, though dulled by illness, flashed with power. You did that long before she arrived. Olivia's lips trembled, but she said nothing more. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard that a crystal decanter rattled on the shelf. Meanwhile, Serena sat in the sunroom with Lucas Bennett, Ethan's assistant and closest confidant. He poured her herbal tea, glancing around to ensure they were alone. Olivia's getting desperate, he said under his breath. She's been meeting privately with Dr. Reed. I don't like it. She's already tried to ruin me, Serena replied, voice low. What else could she possibly do? Lucas hesitated. There are darker ways to make you disappear. Ethan won't always be here to protect you. Serena looked down at her stomach. Then I need to protect myself. Lucas slipped a small USB drive into her hand. This is a copy of Ethan's updated will. Keep it somewhere safe. If anything happens, take it straight to Liam. Don't wait. Serena clutched the tiny object tightly. Thank you, Lucas. That evening, Serena was startled by a soft knock at her door. It was Ethan. He looked exhausted, his skin pale, eyes sunken, but he held a single red rose in his trembling hand. I need to take you somewhere, he said gently, but it's storming. It's important. Minutes later, Serena found herself in the mansion's old greenhouse. Once vibrant with orchids and roses, it was now overgrown and wild. But in the center stood a small table with candles, food, and 2 glasses of sparkling apple cider. Ethan took her hand and led her to the seat. I wanted to give you something normal, just one night, where I wasn't dying, where we weren't surrounded by lies. Serena's eyes welled up. You brought me to a fairy tale, Ethan. He chuckled. Then let me play the prince one last time. Later that night, as thunder rolled overhead, Ethan pulled a velvet box from his jacket pocket. "I know I have no right to ask this," he said, "but will you marry me?" Serena stared at the ring, simple, elegant, with a pale pink sapphire. "You don't have to." "I want to," he interrupted, "not because of the baby, not because of the estate, but because you are the only peace I've ever known." Serena's lips trembled. Yes. She barely whispered the word, but it echoed through the abandoned greenhouse like a vow. Elsewhere in the estate, Vivian stood in the hallway, gripping her phone. "He proposed," she spat into the line. "He's marrying her." On the other end, Benjamin Hartley, her father, was silent for a beat. "Then we accelerate everything," he said. "You know what must be done." Vivian's fingers shook as she hung up. Across from her, in the shadows of the hallway, Dr. Jason Reed stepped forward. "She's pregnant. If we're going to remove her, we'll need to be strategic." Vivian narrowed her eyes. "Then get creative." Back in her suite, Serena sat on the edge of her bed in a daze, staring at the ring on her finger. Ava video-called her from her tablet. "You're what?" "I said yes," Serena said softly. "We're getting married, tomorrow. A quiet ceremony, just us and Liam." Ava rubbed her face in disbelief. "Girl, you're marrying a dying billionaire in a house full of snakes." "I know," Serena said, her voice calm now. "But I love him." "You sure that's not fear talking?" Serena looked out the window. "Maybe it started with fear, but now it's real." Ava sighed. "Then promise me something. If anything happens, anything, you run. Don't play the brave girl. Be smart." "I promise," Serena whispered, but deep down she knew this storm wasn't done. It was just beginning. The next morning, just before the ceremony, Serena caught Lucas pacing in the hallway. "What is it?" she asked. "There was a power cut last night. Security footage from the second floor was wiped, only that section." Serena's eyes narrowed. "Do you think someone was in Ethan's room?" "I don't think," Lucas said grimly. "I know." As the makeshift ceremony began in the rose garden, quiet, under a canopy, with Ethan in a wheelchair and Liam officiating, Vivian watched from a balcony window, fuming. "This is a mistake," Liam said gently as he began the vows, but Ethan and Serena only had eyes for each other. "I may not have forever," Ethan whispered as he slipped the ring onto her finger, "but I'll spend every last heartbeat loving you." Serena leaned in, her eyes shining with tears. "You already have." They kissed. The rain had stopped, but storm clouds still circled above the estate, and beneath it all, in the heart of the Montgomery mansion, a darker plan was already unfolding. The Montgomery estate was unusually quiet. The rose garden, still damp from the rain, bore silent witness to what had happened the night before. Serena and Ethan, hand in hand, exchanging vows in a quiet ceremony, far from the eyes of those who wished them harm. But the morning after brought more than just silence. It brought shadows. Serena woke with a strange chill. The bed beside her was empty. She blinked, startled. "Ethan!" She found him collapsed in the adjoining bathroom, crumpled against the tile. "Ethan!" she screamed. She rushed to his side, her hands trembling as she reached for his pulse. It was faint, too faint. Within seconds, the entire house was in a frenzy. Liam burst into the room, followed by Lucas and two of the estate's emergency medics. Ethan was rushed to the private wing. Again. But this time, Serena could feel it in her bones. This was different. This was worse. She sat outside the intensive suite for what felt like hours. Her hands shook as she tried to text Ava, but the words blurred through her tears. Liam came out first, his face grave. "He's fading, Serena." "No," she whispered, shaking her head. No, we just got married. He used every last drop of strength he had yesterday, Liam said gently. For you, for the ceremony. Serena leaned against the cold marble wall, sobbing quietly. This wasn't how the story was supposed to end. Elsewhere in the house, Vivian and Olivia met in the wine cellar again, standing over a folder of estate papers. You said it would take weeks, Olivia hissed, not days. Vivian crossed her arms. He must have accelerated the wedding knowing the end was near. Olivia's eyes narrowed. That means the girl is his legal wife now, not just a surrogate. Everything goes to her. We can still challenge it in court, Vivian muttered. If we discredit the marriage. And if we discredit her, Olivia added darkly. Back upstairs, Lucas sat beside Serena in the corridor. He offered her a bottle of water, but she didn't take it. He wanted to see you, Lucas said gently. Before he rests. Serena stood, knees wobbling, and followed him into the room. Ethan lay on a white bed, surrounded by quiet machines and slow monitors. His skin looked translucent, the once bright eyes dimming. But when he saw her, he smiled. You're here, he whispered. Serena bent over and held his hand to her cheek. I'm not leaving, he exhaled softly. I was never afraid of dying, but I was afraid of dying alone. You're not alone, she whispered. You have me. You have our child. He smiled faintly, eyes fluttering. Promise me you'll stay strong, that you won't let them ruin you, that our baby will know what love feels like. I promise. Serena. He exhaled slowly. His hand loosened in hers. The monitor gave one long, endless beep. No, she whispered. No, Ethan, please. But it was too late. The man who had changed her life forever was gone. The next day, the mansion was drowned in mourning. Dark curtains covered every window. The staff wore black. Liam managed the estate's legal affairs, while Serena sat in Ethan's study, unable to move. The media caught wind of his death. Reporters swarmed the gates. Headlines screamed, "Young surrogate marries billionaire days before his death. Coincidence or con? Montgomery Empire falls to pregnant waitress. Mystery bride inherits fortune amidst family outrage." Inside, Serena faced a battle of her own. Vivian had leaked the marriage certificate and the will to the press, but twisted the story. She manipulated him, Vivian told reporters. He was sick, weak. She took advantage of him. Olivia, ever the dramatist, went further. She's not even who she says she is. That girl comes from nothing. A gold digger with a plan. I watched her destroy my brother. Despite Ethan's wishes, the court of public opinion had begun its trial, and Serena was losing. But Serena wasn't alone. Ava, furious, took to social media. She posted photos of Serena working double shifts, caring for her sick sister, feeding the homeless. She didn't ask for this, Ava wrote. She didn't chase money, she chased kindness. Within hours, hashtags started trending. Justice for Serena, Judge Montgomery, wife. Love not greed, but as support rose, so did the danger. That night, as Serena walked into Ethan's office to collect a few personal things, she found Caroline Montgomery, Ethan's estranged mother, sitting quietly in the armchair. Serena froze. Mrs. Montgomery? Caroline, elegant and composed, looked up. I came to see my son, she said softly, but I was too late. Serena sat across from her, unsure what to say. I saw the wedding, Caroline continued. I saw the way he looked at you, and I know my son. He loved you. Serena blinked. I loved him too. Caroline nodded. Then I'll help you. The vultures are circling, and Ethan isn't here to shield you anymore, but I will, for his sake, and for the baby. Later that evening, Lucas entered the study and handed Serena a small black notebook. Ethan told me to give you this, he said. His journals. Serena opened the first page. In Ethan's handwriting, the first line read, "In case I don't live to see my child born, let this book be the truth." She clutched the book to her chest as fresh tears spilled down her face. He had planned for this. Even in death, Ethan was protecting her. The reading of Ethan Montgomery's final will took place under heavy clouds, both in the sky and inside the Montgomery family law offices. The room was full. Olivia, Vivian, Benjamin Hartley, Lucas, Liam, and a silent, black-clad Serena, seated beside Carolyn Montgomery, who had reappeared after years of silence. Even now, she radiated regal composure, but her eyes never left Serena. Ethan's lawyer, Liam Knight, stood before them, holding the final envelope. His jaw was tight. He cleared his throat. "This is the official and most recently updated will of Ethan William Montgomery." He opened it. "To my sister, Olivia, I leave a personal trust of $1.5 million and the painting collection in the Aspen estate." Olivia smirked, until Liam continued, "which shall be forfeited immediately should she challenge any part of this document or slander my wife's name publicly or privately." The smirk vanished. "To my former fiancée, Vivian Hartley, I leave nothing." Gasps. Vivian went pale. "And to my wife, Serena Caldwell Montgomery." Liam's voice softened. "I leave full ownership of Montgomery Holdings, including its real estate, brand assets, global investments, and family estate. Furthermore, I name her the legal guardian of my unborn child, my sole heir, and the executor of all matters henceforth." There was a moment of stunned silence. Serena could feel every eye on her. Vivian stood abruptly, her voice trembling with rage. "This is a fraud. This girl manipulated him in his final days." Caroline stood. "I watched that boy suffer," she said coldly. "I saw him wither day after day, and the only light he had left was her. Don't you dare insult my son's memory because your ego couldn't handle being replaced." Vivian stormed out, heels pounding like gunshots. Outside the law offices, Serena stepped into the blinding sun as reporters swarmed the sidewalk. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward. "Did you plan this from the start? Are you taking over Montgomery Holdings? Is the baby really Ethan's?" Lucas shielded her with his body as they tried to push through, but one reporter shouted loud enough to pierce the crowd. "Did you marry Ethan for love or for his money?" That one stung. She kept walking, but her hands curled into fists. By the time Serena returned to the estate, the media frenzy had exploded. Her name was trending online, not for sympathy, but for scandal. Gold digger wife. Billionaire baby scam. Fake Montgomery bride. Someone had leaked private pictures from her and Ethan's wedding. Intimate, sacred moments now twisted into public entertainment. Serena slammed her phone down, her whole body shaking. "I can't take this," she whispered to Lucas. "It's like they want me to break." Lucas didn't flinch. "That's exactly what they want." She looked up at him. "Then they're going to be very disappointed." Hours later, Serena walked into the grand boardroom of Montgomery Holdings, alone. Every executive on the panel stared at her in disbelief. She was in a sleek black dress with no makeup, and her hair pulled into a clean bun. She looked like a widow. She also looked like a boss. "I know some of you question why I'm here," she began, voice steady. "But Ethan made his wishes clear. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm demanding your respect." An older board member cleared his throat. "With all due respect, Mrs. Montgomery, you have no business experience." "No," she said, "but I am carrying the future CEO inside me, and this baby is the reason this empire will continue." There was silence. Then one woman at the table nodded slowly. She's right. The others exchanged glances, some reluctant, some curious, but no one challenged her. Not yet. That evening, Serena sat in Ethan's study with Caroline across from her. The two women hadn't spoken since the will reading. "You handled that room like a Montgomery," Caroline said finally. Serena met her gaze. "I'm not one, not by blood," Caroline leaned in. "But you're the mother of one, and you're stronger than any of them expected." Serena looked down at Ethan's journal on the desk. "I just don't know if I'm strong enough to raise a child while protecting an empire and fighting off vultures." Caroline softened. "You won't do it alone." Serena blinked. "You mean that?" Caroline nodded. "Ethan and we never had peace between us, but I can't undo the past. What I can do is help you protect his future." Serena swallowed a sob and nodded. That night in her suite, Serena rubbed her growing belly as she prepared for bed, but a sudden loud crash echoed from downstairs. She rushed to the balcony overlooking the main foyer and froze. Vivian was there, being restrained by security, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "You think this is over?" she screamed. "You think you can erase me? You'll never be one of us." Serena descended the staircase slowly, her voice cold. "Number, I'll be better than you ever were," Vivian spat. "You won't survive the Montgomery name." Serena stepped forward. "Then watch me." Security dragged her out, screaming curses. Lucas appeared beside Serena. "We'll press charges," he said. Serena shook her head. "Number. Let her rot in her own shame. The court of public opinion will take care of her." Lucas nodded. "You handled that like a queen," he said quietly. She looked up at him, and for the first time, she noticed how gently he was watching her, like she wasn't a scandal or a problem to solve, but something fragile and valuable. "Thank you, Lucas, for everything." He hesitated, then nodded once and walked away. Serena watched him go, her heart confused. Later that night, she opened Ethan's journal again. One entry caught her attention. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. And if they're coming for you, don't back down. You are stronger than you know, and they're not ready for you." Serena smiled through her tears. "No, they're not." The Montgomery estate was awash in candlelight. The storm had knocked out the power, and generators were running only in the lower levels. But none of it mattered to Serena. She was in labor. Pain shot through her lower back as she gripped the edge of her bed. Her water had broken hours ago, and now her body was tightening in waves that stole her breath. Ava was at her side, holding her hand. "Breathe, Serena. You've got this." Lucas hovered in the doorway, pale and wide-eyed. "The doctor is on his way. Just hang on." But Serena could barely hear them. All she could hear was Ethan's voice echoing in her mind. "Promise me, you'll protect our child." Another contraction seized her, and Serena cried out, her forehead slick with sweat. "Okay," Ava said, helping her to the floor mattress. "You're doing great. You're going to meet your baby soon." Downstairs, Olivia, dressed in black and moving like a shadow, whispered furiously into her phone. "She's giving birth tonight," she snapped. "We have to act now. Once that child is born, everything becomes legal and permanent." On the other end, Dr. Jason Reed responded coolly, "Don't worry, I'm already inside." Olivia's eyes narrowed. "Don't mess this up. We need that child in our custody." "Back upstairs," Serena's screams filled the hallway as the mansion's private midwife arrived. "It's time," the woman said urgently. "She's fully dilated." Ava helped Serena lie back on the bed as the contractions grew closer together. "Push," the midwife instructed. Serena bore down with all her strength, every muscle burning. Lucas stood at the door, unable to look away. For all the chaos this house had seen, nothing felt as raw, as real, as sacred as this moment. One final push, and a cry filled the room. Ava gasped. The baby's tiny wail rose above the silence, demanding to be heard. "It's a boy," the midwife announced with a smile. "A healthy baby boy." Serena sobbed in relief as the infant was placed in her arms. He was tiny, pink, and perfect. His fingers curled around hers instinctively. She whispered, "Welcome to the world, Elijah." But peace would not last long. Just hours later, in the stillness of the early morning, Serena awoke to find the crib empty. Her heart stopped. "Elijah!" She bolted upright, ignoring the searing pain in her abdomen. The blankets were flung to the floor. Ava rushed in moments later. "What happened?" "He's gone!" Serena cried, panic rising in her throat. "He was right here!" Lucas ran in with 2 guards behind him. "Seal the doors. Lock the estate down now." A full search began immediately. Cameras were checked. The guards reviewed footage, and that's when they saw it. Olivia, cloaked in black, slipping through the back stairwell with Dr. Reed, carrying a covered bundle. Ava covered her mouth. "They took him." Serena collapsed into Lucas's arms. "My baby. They took my baby." But Olivia didn't get far. Less than 2 miles from the estate, the SUV carrying her and Dr. Reed was intercepted by a private security team that Lucas had called in as backup. The baby was unharmed, wrapped in soft blue blankets, crying loudly. When Lucas arrived at the scene, he ripped open the back seat door, grabbed the infant, and turned to Olivia with eyes full of rage. "You've lost everything," he told her. Olivia hissed. "You think you've won? That child is just a tool. This girl, this waitress, can't lead the Montgomery name." Lucas didn't reply. He just walked away, baby in arms. Back at the estate, Serena cradled Elijah like she'd never let him go again. Tears ran down her face as she kissed his forehead. "You're safe now," she whispered. Lucas stood nearby, eyes on the mother and child. "They're going to come after you again." "I know," she said, voice steadier than it had been in weeks. "But I'm not running." That night she made a call to Liam. "I want full legal custody filed immediately," she told him. "And I want to strip Dr. Reed's license. I want Olivia banned from the estate, for life." Liam didn't hesitate. "Consider it done." Days later, in the nursery Ethan had sketched in his journal, Serena sat in the rocking chair, gently humming to Elijah as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows. A knock came at the door. It was Liam, holding a file. "I thought you'd want to know. Detective Marcus Rowe got back to me. He thinks Ethan's death may not have been natural after all." Serena's body tensed. "What do you mean?" "Reed may have altered his medications," Liam said quietly. "Rowe wants to launch a formal investigation." Serena tightened her hold on Elijah. "Then tell him yes, whatever it takes. I want the truth." Liam nodded. "One more thing. The board wants to hold a public event, in your honor, as the new matriarch." Serena blinked. "Me? Publicly?" "You've already been dragged through the mud," Liam said. "Now it's time to show them who you really are." Serena looked down at her son. "Then let's give them something they'll never forget." Rain splattered against the towering windows of Montgomery Estate as Serena paced the hallway outside the nursery. Elijah was asleep, his breathing soft and steady, but Serena's mind was anything but calm. A part of her still trembled at how close she had come to losing him. Another part was sharpening, fierce, focused, and ready for war. "Ethan," she whispered to the silence, "they tried to take him. They think I'm weak." She looked down at the pendant around her neck, Ethan's wedding gift. "But they're about to learn who I really am." That morning, Serena met Detective Marcus Rowe in the estate's library, a tall, sharp-eyed man with a quiet voice and a steel presence. Rowe had been investigating Ethan's death unofficially until now. "I have enough to move forward," he told her. Serena sat across from him, hands clasped. "Tell me." The dosage logs from Ethan's treatments were altered, small amounts at first, undetectable. But the final week, someone administered an unapproved sedative that accelerated his decline. Serena swallowed hard. "Who?" Rose slid a file toward her. "Jason Reed." Serena's blood ran cold. Rowe continued. "He wasn't working alone. His financial records show recent deposits from an offshore account. I believe someone paid him to make sure Ethan died before the baby was born." Serena's breath caught. Because if Ethan had survived until the birth, he would have had time to amend the trust structure even further, cutting out the rest of the family entirely. Serena's hands clenched into fists. "Then we expose them all." That afternoon, Lucas joined Serena in the sitting room. He had just returned from Vivian's downtown apartment, now fully vacated. She'd disappeared. "Her father wired funds to a private property in the Caribbean," he said. "No extradition?" Serena nodded grimly. "Then she's out of our reach, for now." Lucas leaned in. "But Olivia isn't." Serena's eyes narrowed. "Then let's finish this." Later that night, Serena held a private meeting with Ava, Lucas, and Liam. Ava pulled up footage on her laptop, grainy black and white surveillance from the security wing. "Check this out," she said. "The night Ethan collapsed, right before the engagement announcement, Olivia entered his wing at 3:12 a.m. "She said she was in Aspen," Lucas noted. "She lied," Ava said. "She disabled the camera outside his room, but forgot about the hallway motion sensor." Serena's voice was cold. "She went to see him that night, and less than 12 hours later, he was unconscious." Liam set a legal packet on the table. "I've drafted everything. If you're ready, we can press formal charges." Serena looked up, her eyes blazing. "I'm beyond ready, and..." The next day, Serena made a rare public appearance at the Montgomery Foundation's annual gala, a press-covered event that hadn't seen Serena since Ethan's death. The press had expected a grieving widow in black. They weren't ready for what stepped out of the limousine. Serena wore a red satin gown, bold and elegant, with a diamond pendant over her heart, and Elijah in her arms. Gasps swept through the crowd. "She brought the baby," one reporter whispered. "She's glowing," another said, almost in awe. Serena didn't flinch under the flashes. She walked with poise, her head high, her son resting peacefully against her chest. A silent message to the world. She was not hiding anymore. Inside the ballroom, Olivia stood by the champagne bar, looking like thunder. "She has nerve," she muttered to a friend, "parading that child around like he's royalty." A voice behind her replied, "He is royalty. And you're not invited to the throne." Olivia turned to find Caroline Montgomery standing there, regal and radiant. "I see you haven't learned from your brother's death," Caroline said. "Still so obsessed with control," Olivia sneered. "That girl is ruining our family name." "No," Caroline said. "She's redeeming it." Hours later, as the gala winded down, Serena took the stage. The audience quieted. "I want to thank you all for being here," she began. "This was Ethan's favorite night of the year. He loved this foundation because it reflected everything he believed in: generosity, truth, and justice." She paused. "Tonight I want to honor his memory, with the truth." The room stirred. Serena continued, her voice firm. "Ethan didn't die of natural causes. He was poisoned by people in this very room." Gasps exploded. She turned toward Olivia. "Jason Reed has confessed. He named his benefactor." All eyes turned. Olivia Montgomery, Serena said, her voice like thunder. You paid him to kill your brother. Olivia froze. That's a lie. Security has the proof, Serena said, and the police are already waiting. Olivia turned to run, but it was too late. Detective Rowe appeared with 2 officers. Olivia Montgomery, he said, stepping forward. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. The crowd parted in stunned silence as Olivia was cuffed and escorted out. Serena stepped down from the stage, the room buzzing with whispered shock and admiration. She'd just unmasked the enemy and taken back her power. Back at the estate that night, Serena stood in Elijah's nursery, watching him sleep. Lucas entered quietly. They'll keep her in custody overnight, likely no bail. Good, Serena said softly. Lucas looked at her, then took a deep breath. I need to tell you something. She turned. I didn't just stay here to protect Ethan's interests. I stayed because of you. Serena's breath caught. I was falling in love with you, he said. And I still am. Silence. Serena looked away, heart pounding. I don't know what I feel yet, she whispered. Ethan's still everywhere. I understand, Lucas said gently. I just needed you to know. Then he smiled faintly. You were never just a surrogate, Serena. You're the queen of this empire, and I'd serve under you any day. He turned and left, leaving Serena standing by the crib, her heart torn between 2 men, one gone forever, the other waiting quietly. She picked up Elijah and held him close. Your father warned me they'd come for us, she whispered, but he also said I'd be stronger than they ever imagined. She looked out at the night sky. And he was right. The day after Olivia Montgomery's arrest, headlines exploded across every major outlet. Ethan Montgomery's sister, arrested in shocking murder plot. From heir to inmate, Olivia Montgomery, exposed by billionaire's widow. Justice for Ethan, wife Serena Montgomery, breaks silence with bold accusations. Serena stood at the estate's breakfast table, a cup of tea trembling in her hands, as she scrolled through the coverage. The world finally knew the truth, but strangely, she felt no joy, only grief, and a strange, aching relief. Is it justice, she whispered, if it still hurts this much? Lucas entered with a fresh newspaper. You made sure the truth came out. Ethan would be proud. Serena looked at him. Pride doesn't bring him back. No, Lucas agreed, but it protects his legacy. Down at the city jail, Detective Rowe questioned Olivia under pressure. She sat in an orange jumpsuit, her sharpness dulled by confinement. You'll never prove it, she said coldly. We already have, Rowe replied. Dr. Reed has turned over every message, every bank receipt. Then why am I still breathing? Rowe smirked. Because Serena Caldwell Montgomery chose dignity, you should be thanking her. Olivia leaned back, sneering. That girl is a snake. She'll turn on all of you. No, Rowe said calmly. She's not a snake. She's a lion, and you tried to steal her cub. Back at the estate, Vivian reappeared like a ghost at the gate, her designer sunglasses barely hiding the bruise-colored shadows under her eyes. She demanded to speak with Serena. Against her better judgment, Serena allowed it. In the main hall, they faced each other like queens on opposite ends of a chessboard. What do you want, Vivian? Serena asked coldly. Vivian removed her glasses. Her voice was flat. I came to apologize. Serena narrowed her eyes. For what? Trying to ruin me? Or conspiring to manipulate Ethan into rewriting his will? Vivian looked down. For all of it. There was a beat of silence. I loved him, Vivian said softly. But I never knew how to protect him the way you did. Serena didn't reply. I'm leaving the country, Vivian added. I just wanted you to hear it from me. You won, Serena. You have everything. No, Serena said, stepping closer. I lost the only thing that mattered, and everything I have now, I'll use it to protect his name, not wear it like a trophy. Vivian hesitated, then nodded once, lips tight. As she turned to leave, Serena called out, Vivian. She looked back. I hope you find something real someday, something that doesn't require lies to keep. That afternoon, Lucas joined Serena and baby Elijah in the sunroom. The light filtered softly over the child's sleeping face. Lucas glanced down, then quietly said, Vivian's gone? Yes, for good, I hope. Then it's just you now. Serena smiled faintly. Just me and this little king. Lucas sat beside her. You could still use a protector. She looked up, her eyes meeting his. I already have one. They sat in silence for a while, until Elijah stirred and began to cry. Lucas leaned in, gently rocking him. He looks like Ethan, he whispered. Serena nodded. But I hope he has my instincts. Ethan always gave people the benefit of the doubt. Look where that got him. Lucas turned to her, his expression unreadable. Would you still have fallen for him if you'd known everything? About Olivia, Vivian, the danger? Serena thought for a long moment. Yes, she said, because he gave me a kind of love I didn't know existed. Lucas nodded slowly, then said something that made her heart pause. But what if someone offered you a safe kind of love now? She didn't answer, because part of her wanted to. The next morning, Detective Rowe returned with shocking news. We dug deeper into Olivia's confession, he told Serena, and uncovered something unexpected. Serena leaned forward, alert. Olivia didn't act alone. At the top was Caroline Montgomery. Serena froze. His mother? Rowe nodded. She was the one who orchestrated the trust modifications. She convinced Ethan's legal team to hide certain provisions. And according to Olivia, Caroline knew Ethan's illness was accelerating, but concealed it to protect her own interests. Serena's voice went cold. Where is she? Gone, Rowe said. Vanished hours after Olivia's arrest. We think she knew we were getting close. Serena felt her entire body go numb. Caroline, the woman who promised to help her, had been manipulating them both. She lied to me, Serena whispered. Rowe nodded grimly. She's out there, and if she returns, she'll come for the baby. That evening, Serena stood alone in Ethan's old study. She lit a single candle and opened his journal. One final entry caught her eye, written in shaky pen. If my mother resurfaces after I'm gone, protect the child. She knows things no one else does, things about the family, about me. Serena closed the journal and whispered, I will protect him, Ethan. I'll protect everything. She returned to the nursery and stared down at Elijah. So small, yet already carrying so much. She picked him up and held him close, whispering promises through tears. You have no idea the world you've been born into, but I swear to you, I'll build you a better one. The next day, Serena held a private press conference, her first solo public address as the head of Montgomery Holdings. She stood on the front steps of the mansion in a crisp white suit, Elijah in her arms, and Lucas by her side. I know many of you have questions, she said calmly, about my past, about my husband, about why a woman like me was chosen to carry this legacy. She looked directly into the cameras. The answer is simple. Ethan saw in me what the world refuses to believe in women like us. Honor, loyalty, strength. She paused, then added, and anyone who dares to threaten this family again, blood or not, will be dealt with. Legally, publicly, permanently. The crowd broke into applause. The new queen of the Montgomery Empire had spoken. The Montgomery estate felt different now. Warmer. The halls that once echoed with secrets and suspicion now whispered with peace, lullabies, and the coos of a newborn. Serena stood on the east balcony, Elijah bundled in her arms, his tiny head tucked beneath her chin. The morning sun painted gold across the horizon. She rocked him gently, speaking softly to the wind. Your father wanted you to grow up surrounded by love, not legacy, but I'll make sure you get both. Behind her, the doors creaked open. Liam stepped out in a charcoal suit, holding a slim envelope. The board approved your initiatives, he said, handing her the letter. The Montgomery Foundation will now funnel 30% of its annual earnings into public schools and single mother programs, under your name. Serena blinked at him. Under my name? Liam nodded. They want the public to associate the new Montgomery Empire with you. She exhaled, Elijah squirming gently in her arms. Good. Then maybe this name will finally mean something more than greed. Later that day, Serena sat in the mansion's grand office, the same one Ethan had occupied for years. Lucas entered, placing a thin silver box on her desk. She opened it to find a gold-embossed plaque. Serena Caldwell Montgomery, CEO. Your official title, he said. Serena ran her fingers across the letters. It's strange. I never wanted power. I just wanted a way out. Lucas smiled softly. Now you've built the door yourself. She looked up. And what if I don't know how to walk through it? Lucas stepped closer. Then I'll walk beside you. There was a quiet beat between them, tension unspoken but undeniable. But before anything more could be said, a knock came at the door. Vivian was gone. Olivia awaited sentencing. Caroline was still in hiding. But the world kept turning, and so did Serena. The next morning, she held a press meeting in the estate's media room to formally announce the foundation's rebranding in Ethan's memory. She stood before the cameras in a sleek navy dress, her voice poised and powerful. The Ethan Montgomery Foundation will now be called the Legacy of Love Trust. Its purpose, to protect the vulnerable, uplift the unheard, and honor the man who gave everything, not for himself, but for his family. A wave of applause filled the room. Investors, board members, and even the public press nodded with visible admiration. And yet, not everyone in the room was cheering. From the corner, Benjamin Hartley, Vivian's father, watched with calculating eyes. He clapped politely, but his face was stone. Later that afternoon, as the guests departed, Serena caught his gaze from across the foyer. He gave her a slow smile. Congratulations, he said. You've made quite a show of yourself. This isn't a show, Serena replied coolly. It's a legacy, Benjamin chuckled. Legacies built on emotion crumble, but ones built on control, they last. I'd rather crumble with love, Serena replied, than thrive on corruption. He offered a mock bow and turned to leave, but Serena knew he wasn't done with her. That night, after putting Elijah to bed, Serena found herself alone in the library with Lucas. She sipped tea from Ethan's favorite mug and stared at the fireplace. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? She asked quietly. Lucas sat beside her. I think you're doing what Ethan would have done, if he'd had your heart. Serena turned, eyes softening. You keep saying things like that. Because I mean them, Lucas said. You changed this house, Serena. You brought light into a place built on shadows. Serena set the mug down. I never thought I'd have this. A home, a child, a future. She looked at Lucas, voice trembling. But I still miss him every day. I know, he whispered. He took her hand gently. And I'm not here to replace him. I'm just here. Their hands stayed linked, resting between them like an unspoken promise. A few days later, a package arrived at the estate. No return address. Inside, a velvet box. Serena opened it cautiously, eyes narrowing. Inside was a silver rattle, Ethan's childhood heirloom, the one he had once gifted to her when she agreed to carry his child. There was a note tucked beneath it. "He would have been proud, but your fight isn't over. C.M." Caroline. Serena's hand trembled. She stared at the note for a long time. "She's watching," she said aloud. Ava, standing nearby, frowned. "What do we do?" Serena looked down at Elijah, asleep in her arms. "We stay alert," she said, "and we protect what's ours." Spring arrived in Willow Creek with the soft hum of renewal. The cherry blossoms lining the Montgomery estate's front lawn bloomed gently under the morning sun. It had been exactly 6 months since Ethan Montgomery's death. 6 months since Serena's life transformed from poverty and anonymity into power, scandal, and motherhood. She stood by the massive windows of the estate nursery, gently rocking Elijah in her arms. He had grown so quickly, full cheeks, bright brown eyes, that sometimes looked just like Ethan's. She kissed his forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of baby powder and innocence. "Your daddy would have loved you so much," she whispered, "but I'll love you enough for both of us." Downstairs, Serena met with Liam and the head of the Montgomery legal team in the estate's war room, once used by Ethan to command empires. Now Serena was commanding her own. "The last of Olivia's assets have been frozen," Liam confirmed. "Her trial begins in 2 weeks. "And Caroline?" Serena asked. "No sightings," he replied, "but we've reinforced security around the estate and all Montgomery business offices. If she surfaces, we'll know." Serena nodded, her tone firm. "She will resurface. Women like her don't vanish. They wait." Later that afternoon, Serena gathered Lucas, Ava, and Liam in the newly renovated sunroom, now styled as her informal leadership chamber. Sunlight poured in across the glass table as Serena passed out official documents bearing her and Elijah's names. "We're entering a new era," she said. "The world no longer sees me as the grieving widow. They see me as a woman holding power, and they'll want to test me." Lucas nodded. "Let them. They'll lose." Ava grinned. "You've turned this house of vipers into a palace of peace." Serena smiled faintly. "Then let's make it official. I'm hosting a celebration, public, press invited. I want the world to see exactly who stands at the top now." That weekend, the estate transformed. White tents dotted the lawn. Crystal chandeliers hung from towering poles. The staff moved like clockwork, preparing for a grand celebration in honor of Elijah's christening and Serena's formal public emergence as head of the Montgomery Empire. Dressed in flowing ivory, Serena held her son at the top of the marble staircase as a camera crew recorded her descent. She greeted politicians, charity leaders, tech investors, many of whom once dismissed her. Now they vied for a moment of her time. She made her way to the podium set up beneath a flower-covered arch. "I once thought power belonged only to the wealthy, the elite, the born," she began. "But I learned something far greater. Power belongs to the brave, to those who survive, rise, and then choose to lift others with them." The audience erupted in applause. Serena looked out at the crowd. "I didn't inherit Ethan's world. I built my own with the pieces he gave me." In the crowd, Liam watched with admiration. But from the sidelines, Lucas stood back, his gaze more tender, filled with the quiet, patient affection of a man who had loved her through every storm and never demanded a thing in return. After the ceremony, Lucas approached her on the terrace. "You're magnificent," he said simply. Serena turned to him. "You've been here for me, every step." "I'll always be," he replied, "even if it's just as the man in the background." She touched his arm. "You've never been background, Lucas. You've been my anchor." He stepped closer. "Then let me be more." Serena held his gaze for a long, quiet moment. "I'm not ready," she whispered. "Not yet." Lucas nodded, understanding. "Then I'll wait." He leaned down and kissed Elijah's forehead gently. "And I'll protect both of you until the day I die." Inside, Ava wrangled reporters and guests, sipping champagne and managing Serena's image like a seasoned publicist. She caught up with her best friend in a private moment later that evening. "Girl," Ava said, wrapping Serena in a tight hug, "from broke and barefoot to baby and billionaire. Look at you." Serena laughed. "It doesn't even feel real." "You earned every bit of this. And Ethan, he didn't give you the world. You inherited it, yeah, but you rebuilt it with your bare hands." Serena smiled, a soft tear forming in the corner of her eye. "I just hope Elijah grows up proud." "He will," Ava said, "because he'll grow up watching his mother rewrite history." As the night wound down, Serena sat alone in Ethan's study, a candle lit beside his photo. She held a glass of wine in one hand and Elijah's birth bracelet in the other. She whispered aloud, "Ethan, I kept my promise. I protected him. I protected everything. I'm not afraid anymore." She looked up at his smiling portrait. "And I still love you, but I'm learning how to live again." A quiet knock broke her reverie. A courier stood at the door with a sleek white envelope. "For Mrs. Montgomery." She opened it. Inside was a simple card with no return address. "The game has only just begun. See you soon. CM." Serena's fingers trembled for only a second. Then she set the card on fire using the candle's flame. She watched it burn. "No more fear," she whispered. Just then, Elijah cried from upstairs. She stood, straightened her shoulders, and walked toward the sound. The next morning, Serena sat in the garden with Elijah in her lap. The sun rose over the Montgomery estate, golden and bright. Ava joined her with coffee, and Lucas hovered nearby, security files in hand. The world was still dangerous. Caroline was still out there. Enemies still lurked in shadows. But Serena was no longer a girl hired for her womb. She was a mother, a leader, a legend. And she wasn't just carrying Ethan's legacy anymore. She was the legacy. Here comes the end of Season 1. If you're interested in the next season, comment "We really want Season 2."